The NBA postseason is finally here, and with the final regular season games wrapping up on Sunday, the play-in tournament matchups are locked in. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my prediction for the play-in tournament, which will ultimately decide the final seedings for the NBA playoffs in the Western and Eastern Conference. Quick refresher for everyone on how the play-in tournament works. You're going to have the 7 through 10 seeds in both conferences, with the 7 and 8 seeds basically playing double elimination style. They will be taking on each other first, with the winner getting the 7 seed in their respective conference, and the 9 and 10 seeds needing to win 2 games to be able to make it to the 8 seed. So the winner of the 9-10 seed game will be playing the loser of the 7-8 seed game, with the winner of that final game taking the last spot at the 8th seed in their respective conference for the full NBA playoff bracket to be set. The first matchup I want to dive into is actually going to be the 7-8 matchup in the West, which I personally think is the most intriguing matchup, or would have been the most intriguing matchup in the entire play-in tournament had the Minnesota Timberwolves not essentially thrown away their entire season in about a 30-minute span yesterday. First, obviously, starting with the Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert fight there on the sideline. Obviously, things were said that Gobert didn't like and he took offense to. That he felt strongly enough to take a swing at Kyle Anderson. They obviously had to be separated there on the sideline. We now know that Rudy Gobert has actually been suspended for this game against Los Angeles, which is a huge, huge loss for them. Already, generally just a big loss, losing your best interior defender like that. But it's even more prominent when you're going up against a healthy Lakers team and a healthy Anthony Davis, who I don't think they really have any answer to at this point. And on top of that, as soon as that happens, you see Jaden McDaniels is punching walls in frustration, walking through the player tunnel, and he fractures his hand. So that's probably the end of his season there as well. So you lost your best interior defender, you lost your best overall defender, and your primary perimeter defender, your best ball stopper in Jaden McDaniels, 6'9", lengthy defender. There's a lot of holes now that just kind of appeared out of nowhere. And on top of all of this, we still have the Naz Reid injury there for the Timberwolves. So, they went from running this big 2-tower lineup with Cat and Gobert. You had Naz Reid coming in as a backup, and you had some length there, and, Jaden McDaniels and Taurean Prince, to now the backup big might genuinely be Luka Garza, which, if that's what we're running with in the play-in tournament, I don't think the Timberwolves have a way to even make it out at this point. So, not going to, spend too much time on it. I actually don't think this will be that close of a game, as great as, Anthony Edwards has been as of late and what we saw from him in the postseason last year. And like I said, with the Lakers, they're getting healthy at the right time, with Anthony Davis and LeBron both being healthy right now. And their depth and their size, I think, is just going to cause too many problems for the Timberwolves here in this game, despite as great as Anthony Edwards has been as of late, and what we saw he was able to do, in the postseason last year against Memphis. It looks like he's built for this stage, but I just think this is too much of a burden for him to carry without Rudy, without Jaden McDaniels, and without Naz Reid. They're just, I think, going to get demolished on the interior. I don't think they'll have an answer for any of the drives. They'll have an answer for AD. You'll have an answer for Austin Reeves driving to the rim. Cat will likely probably end up in foul trouble, and then, where do we turn for the Timberwolves for, an interior presence or a big body there? So, horrible situation for Minnesota to be in, but I think the Lakers clean this one up pretty easily and lock in the 7th seed there out west, and we'll be going to play the Memphis Grizzlies there in the first round. That's my prediction. Moving on to the 9-10 matchup out west, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder traveling to New Orleans to play the New Orleans Pelicans. And this is a game that I think is going to just be exciting to watch regardless of the outcome. I think we're going to get a chance to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Brandon Ingram go bucket for bucket down the stretch, and just go at it in some of the purest scoring basketball we will probably have ever seen all year. It's going to be, I think, a great game to watch. I think these teams match up, interestingly. Oklahoma City Thunder haven't really run with a center all year long, but have one of the better defenses in the league, and a lot of that is a testament to their coach Mark Daigneault. With the New Orleans Pelicans, having a lot of injury issues on and off throughout the year. Obviously, Zion being the biggest one. As I've read a report today that it doesn't look like he's even close to being ready. So, even if they are able to get out of the play-in tournament, the expectation is he won't be available for them probably at all this postseason, which is another big blow to this Pelicans team. But going back to this specific matchup, like I said, I think it'll be very offensive focused. I think Jonas Valanciunas has an opportunity here to make a big impact on this game. Like I said, the Thunder don't really run a center and haven't run a center all year. And I think Valanciunas is one of the more underrated bigs in terms of his overall skill set and what he brings to a team in terms of interior presence on offense or on the low block, rebounding, defending, even being a playmaker out of the low post. He can do a lot for this Pelicans team that I think could cause some problems there just with the lack of size there for the Thunder. But it's going to be tough for them to also stop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's been on a tear all season, putting up over 30 points a night. Probably going to be an all-NBA player this year, and rightfully so based on his play. Pairing up with guys like Josh Giddey as well. They had a phenomenal season. Don't want to discredit J-Dub either. They've had a really phenomenal season, and it's great that they're going to finally get to see SGA in his first postseason type environment. But I don't think they're going to be able to beat this Pelicans team just, as currently constructed. And that's completely okay. They're young. They'll have another lottery pick if they lose this game among all the other picks that Sam Presti has accumulated here over the last few years across some of these trades that he's made. So I have the Pelicans coming out of this matchup here, but nothing for the Thunder to hang their heads on. They had a phenomenal season and fought out again against teams like the Mavericks and the Blazers, who were looking to get into the play-in tournament, but the Thunder held their ground and were able to get here. So I think it'll still be an exciting game nonetheless, but I do have the Pelicans coming out on top. With the Pelicans advancing in this hypothetical scenario, they will be traveling to Minnesota to take on the Timberwolves with a chance to claim the 8 seed and take on the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And again, I think this is an opportunity for us to see two great scorers again in B.I. and Anthony Edwards go at it in a playoff environment. I'm going to assume that Gobert is going to be back for this game, just because they've already given up so much to get him, and their season is completely on the line. This is a must-win, win or go-home game for the Timberwolves organization for what has been a pretty up-and-down, tumultuous year for them for, a multitude of reasons. But, what occurred on Sunday, which I already touched on earlier in the video, I think is going to be weighing heavily, not just the internal issues, but obviously, again, the injury to Jaden McDaniels there and the previous injury to Naz Reid. And I just think all of that combined, going up against the Pelicans team that we know is hungry, has made it out of the play-in tournament before, and knows how to do it. I think that the Pelicans are able to do it again. I think B.I. is going to be able to have a great game. Like I said, without Jaden McDaniels, they're losing their best perimeter defender, their best ball stopper, and he's going to be able to get to his spots just a little bit easier, get his shot off, and if he gets in a rhythm, we know B.I. can go for 40-plus points and make it look silky smooth as always. So I think that the Pelicans will actually win this potential game and will advance to the 8 seed and take on the Nuggets in Denver out west. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, we have the 7-8 game, which is the Atlanta Hawks traveling to Miami to take on the Heat for a chance to be the 7 seed in the playoffs and take on the Boston Celtics in the first round. And I'll be honest, I actually don't think this is going to be a close game. I do have the Heat winning here pretty handily. Like we saw with them last year, they were obviously able to completely eliminate Trae Young, really as an offensive threat throughout their series. And obviously they've kind of mitigated some of that with bringing in DeJounte Murray and having a secondary ball handler there. But I just think this team is full of too many playoff veterans, people that have been there before and made finals runs in Jimmy Butler. And with, coaches like Eric Spoelstra, in these win-or-go-home scenarios, that's who I'm more comfortable with. And I ultimately think that they just provide too much pressure on defense. They're going to get Trae out of his rhythm, and they're kind of just going to swarm the ball constantly. And the Miami Heat are actually, I think, the lowest scoring team in the NBA this season. But they won't need to, I think, put up a ton of points. I think they'll be able to let their defense kind of carry them to a win here and lock themselves in as a 7 seed out east. Moving on to the 9-10 matchup out east, we do have the Chicago Bulls traveling up north to play the Toronto Raptors. This is a matchup I think is interesting because there's a lot of pressure on both organizations due to their essentially underperformance of their expectations, I would imagine, for this season, just based on what they were able to do last season record-wise and making it into the playoffs, as well as just their preseason expectations with the talent that they had in the Eastern Conference as a whole. So ultimately, I think that the Raptors are going to win this game. I think that, with defenders like OG Anunoby and Siakam and Scotty Barnes, they're going to be able to pose some problems for, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan to really get going. And I think Vucevic being as big of a liability as he is on the defensive end, with, again, obviously the missed impact that Lonzo Ball will be bringing with his injury, I think it's just going to be too much for the Bulls to be able to handle, even with Alex Caruso kind of playing at the all-defensive level that he has all year. I just think that they just don't have the talent and the roster construction to be able to compete really in the East right now. And that'll send the Bulls home early and put them in a spot where they have a lot of questions and issues that are going to need to be addressed this offseason and what to really do with this franchise moving forward. With the last matchup here in this hypothetical preview scenario, we're going to have the Toronto Raptors traveling to Atlanta to take on the Hawks for a chance to be the 8 seed here in the playoffs and take on the Bucks in the first round. And in this game, I'm again going to be picking the Raptors here. I'm giving a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there to Nick Nurse and just the way that I know the Raptors have been able to play despite their inconsistencies all year. They're also playing a team in Atlanta which has been inconsistent all year. And regardless of who wins this game, I genuinely think it'll probably be a sweep or a 5-game series against the Bucks. So, not the greatest of consolation prizes there for either team. But ultimately, again, I think, with all the turmoil that's going on there in Atlanta with coach being fired and bringing in Quinn Snyder and just continuing to try to find that balance of how Trae Young and DeJounte Murray will continue to work together, I just don't think these winner-go-home scenarios against a team like the Raptors who've been there before, have championship players still on that roster. I think that championship DNA is going to show in this game. We're going to hopefully get good performances and consistent performances out of Fred VanVleet. Siakam is going to do what he continues to do. OG Anunoby being the kind of pest that he is on defense, with guys like Gary Trent as well in the mix and Scotty Barnes. I just think it's going to be too much for Atlanta to handle in this game. And I think that's okay. Obviously wouldn't be not the greatest of seasons, but given the circumstances, you get a full offseason there with, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray to continue to work with new coach Quinn Snyder, who can really get a full offseason under his belt to implement things the way that he wants. And, we saw the success that he had in Utah with that roster. So, brighter things could be on the future for Atlanta moving forward, but I just don't see them being able to make it out of the play-in tournament, which means that in both conferences, my prediction is that we are going to have a 9 or 10 seed upset one of the 2 higher seeds and make it into the postseason. So finally, to wrap up my predictions, I think coming out of the West, we will have the Lakers becoming the 7 seed and taking on the Memphis Grizzlies, while we'll have the Pelicans becoming the 8 seed and taking on the Denver Nuggets. And out east, we'll have the Heat becoming the 7 seed and taking on the Celtics, with the Raptors becoming the 8 seed and taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. That is going to do it for my play-in preview video. Exciting times with the playoffs starting this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and get out some of my final thoughts on the award races for all of the major NBA awards, and of course, the biggest debated one right now, the MVP, and get those videos out here over the next few weeks as the playoffs start to get underway, and then fully transition into giving recaps on big games or big series endings as we continue to go through the playoffs. So please continue to tune in for that content, as well as the podcast coming out very soon. Exciting times are ahead. So please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more NBA content like this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.